Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this 120th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include MMA fighter Nick Newell. We'll be talking about the new movie Notorious Nick, which is available in theaters and on demand. We'll also visit with comedian, actor, and podcaster Jeff Richards. We'll talk about his podcast, The Jeff Richards Show, plus some new music and a lot more. We'll also visit with author and podcaster Sarah Bragg. You know her from the podcast Surviving Sarah. She's got a new book we'll be talking about, A Mother's Guide to Raising Herself. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and share with your friends. Now, does this sound good or disgusting and unnecessary? Well, tomorrow is National Mustard Day, so the makers of French's Mustard just unveiled mustard-flavored hot dog buns. Now, they actually baked real mustard into the bread. Now, unfortunately, it'll be hard to get your hands on them, and they won't be in grocery stores. At least, not until they're a huge hit. But they posted a recipe online if you want to try making them yourself. A few hot dog carts and stands will have them tomorrow in New York, Chicago, and Santa Monica, California. They'll also be available at Yankee Stadium and Camden Yards in Baltimore and outside Fenway Park next weekend. We've been talking this week about the new movie Notorious Nick that is available now. We've got the MMA great Nick Newell himself with us today. And first off, Nick, I appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the show.
Now, Nick, tell us how the idea, the process of the movie came about, and what were your initial reactions to the idea, if you will?
I just got reached somehow. I think maybe email or on social media somehow. Hey, we want to make a movie about you, and I'm like, oh, I thought it was a joke, and so I sent it over to my management team, and they were like, no, these guys are legit. Like, they've been in a lot of good big projects with some stars. And this guy even made Bloodsport and Kickboxer. And I was like, oh, geez, those are two of my favorite movies. So we started talking and we figured out something that works. And we made this movie happen. And
Nick, you've seen the cast and the representation that they did. What was your initial reaction to seeing it on the screen as well?
I thought they did a great job. They really did their part and captured my life in a good way, and everyone that played anyone did a fantastic job.
And for you to see the movie coming about, what was it like whenever you had to sit down and rehash some memories? What was maybe the moment that really stuck out that you were like, we've got something really special now?
I just watched it, I watched it last month, and I was like, it started off and I was like, okay, this is really good. And it just kept getting better and better and better. And there were no moments where I thought the movie was lacking or boring or was oh my God, what's going to happen next? It was one thing after another, pure entertainment for the entire movie.
And Nick, a lot of folks know of the story, and you've never used your limitations as an excuse for anything. And I think that's what a lot of folks are going to pull from this movie is that we all face challenges. And for you, Nick, what was it, that inner strength that kept you going? Yeah, I just was doing something that I enjoyed. I think that's the main thing, is that I enjoy martial arts and I enjoy competition. And if you're going to be somewhere and you're going to do something, you might as well be the best, or at least the best version of yourself. And that's been my attitude. That's kind of guided me and led me to my success. And to see the feedback from the folks that have had the chance to see the pre-release and to get that feedback, what does that mean to you on a personal level, to know that the story of your life is making a difference and having an impact on the viewers as well?
Yeah, it's really cool that I get to share my story with people and provide some people some inspiration and kind of give back, I guess, a little bit.
Over this last year, Nick, just like everybody else, we've all had to kind of adjust and change things up. We've spent a lot of time alone as well. What was maybe one of the things that you've learned most about yourself in that time?
For me, nothing really changed. I had to close down my business for a couple months, which financially was annoying, but we made it through, and I got to spend more time with my family, and it actually wasn't a bad time, and I still trained every day. I had a partner that we both did our little quarantine thing, and we would get together and train every day. So it wasn't too bad,
How has this last year in having to do things different maybe changed your outlook as things are opening up now?
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of just do things the way, obviously you change every day and you grow every day, but I still do what needs to be done to get the job done, and learning and growing every single day.
That's good stuff. And again, the new movie, Notorious Nick, is available. And Nick, I always want to make sure and let our listeners know not only about the film, but where they can find everything you've got going social media-wise as well, sir.
Okay, so you can get the movie anywhere you rent or buy movies. So online on any of those, the apps. It's in theaters, so check your local listings. And follow me at Notorious Newell on either Twitter or Instagram. And I have some good stuff. I post, I post good content. People like my memes. So from my life, I'm known as quite the meme guy.
That's good. Well, Nick, again, thank you so much for your time, sir. I'm looking forward to checking out the movie this weekend as well. And hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes, located at 313 Falcon Road in Altus. If you ever have a question or something you'd like to know, give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma, plus don't miss out on Wacky Wednesdays. That's at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road in Altus. Now, we've all heard the phrase dog days of summer, but what exactly are they? Well, here's a quick rundown. Number 1, the name comes from the star Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky, and it's known as the dog star. The term dog days comes from ancient Greek and Roman civilizations who believed Sirius's bright light radiated extra heat toward Earth, making summer days hotter. Second, there's been some debate about the exact time frame, but according to the Old Farmer's Almanac, the dog days of summer last from July 3rd to August 11th. So we've got about another week left. Third, an old proverb claims rainy during dog days of summer is bad luck. Now, the thought among farmers was that a dry growing season in summer was better than a wet one. And finally, you might be at a greater risk of certain infections. The same way that winter is known as flu season, a study in Maryland found that the dog days of summer might be bacterial infection season. And another study in Finland found that the risk of an infection after a surgery was 2 times higher during the dog days of summer than at other times. Our next guest on the show, former member of Saturday Night Live and MADtv as well, got a podcast, got some music, a little bit of everything to talk about today with Jeff Richards. And first off, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking some time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you, Cameron. It's been quite the morning. I woke up and instead of using my shower as a bathtub, I used it as a shower this time, and feel good. All right, that's enough of that. How you doing, buddy? Everything's good?
I am well, and the podcast. I love the podcast. I love the whole premise behind it. And when did you come up with the idea of the stand-in, if you will?
A while ago, a few years ago, and I didn't know if I could do it because the whole thing is improv, and I didn't know how long I could stay in character for. So I didn't know if I could do it. And then the other thing was, before we were doing the Zoom stuff all the time with the pandemic, I didn't know how I'd pull it off if it wasn't just audio, because you just see me every time. It's me every time,
Right.
So the things came together with, Zoom, being more popular. And then the deep fake thing, I just kind of done that for the first time not that long ago. And so just the combination of those things kind of led to it.
Now, where did you first start working on voices and impersonations? When did that start? Is that something that you've always done, making noises and stuff like that?
Yeah. Just mimicking people and like my uncle and, teachers. And then early ones were Letterman, like David Letterman. Nice to see. Good to have you here again. I don't know the particular ins and outs. And different ones like that. And then, I just kept doing them, and it was a hobby for a long time until I started doing stand-up. Mm-hmm.
Now, how did stand-up, you also talk about doing improv type work. How did that kind of get you all set up for SNL, MADtv, and everything you've been working on ever since then?
Well, I think it's that kind of thing where just things kind of fall into place a little bit. I mean, I wasn't really trained to be on SNL. I could do impressions, but I didn't have much acting training. I didn't really do any of the improv schools. I did a little bit of the groundlings, but not much. And so I kind of had to learn while I was there. So yeah, but just doing impressions all through the years and learning new ones and all that prepared me for the podcast, because with friends, I would always be like, they'd say, do this impression. And then I would do it and talk to them in that impression, and have a dialogue. So it was like, there was inklings of it early, and then I just had to just do it, So the first one I did on camera was with Jamie Kennedy, and it was exhilarating, because it's like, you don't want to make a mistake, you want it to be one take, you don't want to drop out. So, but it went well, and we just kept doing them. So
this last year, when did the podcast come of an idea for you? Was that something pandemic, or was it pre-pandemic that the inspiration
Well, like I said,
came?
It was sort of pre-pandemic, the idea of having, but originally I was going to do it as the impression was going to be interviewed by the guest host. And then I just kind of switched it at the end, because I realized not every guest is going to want to host. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened. And, just the idea of the show is, it's Jeff Richards show, and I'm never there. Somehow I'm never there each week. So we have a guest host, and that's the basics of it. Yeah.
Which of the guest hosts that you've been playing has been the most difficult for you to stay in character?
I think Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, which we were just talking before the air. I had Kato Kaelin will be next week. Kato Kaelin and Patrick Bateman, because it's kind of subtle and it's a little quiet. It's like this. Nice to see him. And it's sort of, if like the guest is bouncing around too much, it's hard to compete with. But I talked to Kato before. I said, just play it real. Have fun. Just play it real, so that I can have moments,
Now, when did music for you? When did you bring a part of that all in? Was music for you maybe about the same time you were doing impressions at a young age as well?
I'd always thought about, fantasized about being on stage, singing and stuff like that. And I think I don't know how early on, but I'm sure I did, like most people, come up with your own lyrics to songs, and just start singing your own lyrics. So that's sort of like the early, but not until I met a few different guys, Ben Seward, Arlo Sanders, and Daniel White. And they basically just gave me the music, and I just wrote lyrics to it and sang. So EDM, it's like 80s, kind of like Pet Shop Boys kind of thing,
So where did you come up with the alternate personality, if you will?
Well, it's a little bit of like, Morrissey. It's a little bit of Morrissey. It's a little bit of Morrissey and Neil Tennant from Pet Shop Boys. So like he talks like this, and it's very nice and it's good, but it doesn't feel right, because I think song is texture and song is absolute and song is viral and song is whatever you want it to be. So he's got a bit of that sense of humor, like sarcasm. But then Neil Tennant's like, Los Angeles, that's, I'll do that with Los Angeles. I miss you. Just put them all together.
Now, this last year, inspiration-wise, did this last year make it harder on writing for you, or did it maybe make it harder to edit because of all of the emotions everybody's feeling?
It's a good question. I think it was sort of out of desperation, because all stand-up ended there for a second, and it's still tough to come back, and there are many clubs that are out of business now. But for me, I think it was like, well, what else can I do? And I had this idea before, and then I just went on a Zoom show. Jason Hour was producing it, and he said, what do you think of this? Do you like this format? And I said, I have this other idea. Let's do this other idea. So it kind of came out of not knowing what was going to be next performance-wise. So it's like the one thing you could do, like sit down and write a book. You can sit down and write a book, right? Like you have pen and paper and a room and you can write a book. So It's like kind of like that thing. What can I do on my own? So yeah.
Have you had to catch up with technology this last year, or has technology always been something you've been comfy with?
No, I hate it. I mess up all the time. And, I have it muted, and just like when we started, I didn't know it was you that did it, but it just as easily could have been me. No, I don't like it very much. It slows things down. I don't even like writing with a computer because I can't type as fast, but for some reason I can do the phone quicker than I can type. How are you on that?
I swipe. I don't, my thumbs are too big to hit the buttons. So yeah, I use the swipe on the text. Yeah. It's way faster than typing. Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Yeah. I my thumbs are just, every time it's FIR, never forward. It's FIR, FIR.
Yeah. I have never once in my life, I don't think, ever typed fur to anybody, but yeah, I get that as autocorrect all the time.
Yeah, it's happening.
Now
it's happening more and more.
You talked about Cato coming up next week. I know you've also had Jon Lovitz and Dr. Phil. That's the one that really got me, was how cool is that, bouncing things and ideas off of folks like Jon and others that you've known for as long as you have?
Oh, it's just the greatest. It's the best part. It's the best part. Getting awesome guests, some of which I knew and some of which Andy got, and different people that like Lovitz came on again. This is the second time on. So he was, we kind of made it so that, we kind of fight each other a little bit, go at each other. And one time he was like, I was trying to give him cabbage juice to help him clear him out. And I'm like, hey, you need some cabbage juice, John? I'm going to send you a box. And he goes, a box? A box? I don't want to blow up my microphone. But yeah, it's just the greatest. It's so fun. The guests make the show all worthwhile.
Now, have you had any feedback from the folks that you've been portraying as well?
A little bit. Louis Anderson, who I knew before, he likes it. Trying to get him on the show. Not too many people, though. I mean, let me think of the people I've done. Not too many have I heard back from. Like I know someone is giving the video of Dr. Phil and Lovitz to Dr. Phil's people or whatever. So maybe they see it. Maybe they see it and they, don't react. So you wouldn't know if they actually saw it or not. Like I know Jimmy Fallon. I can't imagine he didn't see a little bit of it. Oh, wow, so cool. I just found a paperclip, You know what a paperclip is, Twisted piece of metal, That's the most amazing thing in the world, I mean, somebody must have shown him that. It's fun, I I'm just taking, a little air out of everybody. Nothing much, just they're pretty flattering impressions. I think they're not I'm not going for the jugular.
Are there any that you would?
No, I don't think so, because I like it to be as real as it can. I want it to be as close to the person as it can, and then just make what they say kind of crazy, but nothing, keep the impression as clean as you can without, too much, because I think if you mess that up too much, you forget where you're starting from, The
podcast is The Jeff Richards Show. The Ditto Kiddo had a self-titled album, got another album. Is it in the pipeline now, or has it already been released?
Oh, yeah. It came out a couple weeks ago. It's called People You Know, Ditto Kiddo. Yeah. And we play those songs on the show. And then Meanest Man Contest is on the show a lot. And yeah, a little music, a song at the end of the show.
And if folks want to check out the Ditto Kiddo on Spotify, is that the best place to keep up with that?
Anywhere you can find it. Just Ditto Kiddo, Ditto Kiddo, as the artist. Yeah. Anywhere pretty much. Yeah.
The Jeff Richards Show, where's the best place? Is there a home website or just anywhere you get your podcasts?
Yeah, thejeffrichardshow.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah.
All right.
It's out there.
Well, Jeff, I truly appreciate you taking some time today, brother. I love the impressions, love the work that you're doing, and been watching you for quite a while, and it's a privilege to have you stop by today.
Well, thank you very much, and I was glad to be here. Thank you. Cool.
Do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes, located at 313 Falcon Road in Altus. If you ever have a question or something you'd like to know, give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma, plus don't miss out on Wacky Wednesdays. That's at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road in Altus. The U.S. Olympic team includes 613 of the most finely tuned athletes in the world. But over a third of Americans are like, I could do that. Now, 40% of us think that we could hold our own in at least one event at the Summer or Winter Olympics. And we're not just talking about air rifle and curling. A lot of us think we could compete in the more physical events too. Basketball, soccer, and swimming were all popular choices. Although a quick reality check, folks, 74% of adults in the U.S. are either obese or overweight. Now, men were a lot more likely to say that they could hold their own at the Olympics, 60% compared to 22% of women. Now, let me know when they add competitive channel flipping, and I'm in. Now, the poll also asked people which events should be added to the Summer Olympics. The top answers were MMA, lacrosse, bowling, cricket, and competitive cheerleading. And there actually is a chance that cheerleading could be added in 2028. A podcaster, also an author. We're going to talk about moms needing to take a smoke break. Mother's Guide to Raising Herself. We've got Sarah Bragg with us today. And first off, Sarah, I appreciate you taking some time to be on.
I'm so happy to be here. I can already tell this is going to be fun.
Now, Sarah, the smoke break idea, that's the one that kind of grabs folks. So where did that idea first materialize for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like it goes back to with pop culture. I've always thought about if there's a mom that I resonate most with in pop culture, or that maybe I want to identify with, it's the Mad Men mom, right? Betty Draper. Like, she just seems like she is so carefree. Like, she just doesn't know where her kids are. She doesn't seem ruffled by anything they're doing, and she's kind of walking around with a cigarette in her mouth and a shotgun in the other hand. Like, what I mean? Like, just craziness. And so I kept thinking, how can I embody, like, I don't endorse smoking for health reasons. And so I'm like, how can I embody that idea of what she is, where she just is like, nothing is ruffling her. I just feel like I'm usually a ruffled feathers kind of mom. And so as I thought about it and I started, I had, when my girls were younger, and helping them with like emotions. And I kept reading about all the science behind breathing and how you got to like take a break. You got to take a deep breath in and out. And you know what? I just am a breath holder. I hold it all the time. Like, I don't know what that is, but if I am stressed or if I am anxious, I'm holding my breath. Like working out, like I've been working out, and my trainer keeps going, you got to breathe. And I'm like, I don't breathe. I hold my breath. This is what I'm doing. And so I kind of combine those two things because I kept thinking, man, people that I've worked with in the past would always take a smoke break and they just like drop what they were doing at like 10 a.m., go walk out, have a 10-minute, break and breathe in, breathe out and come back in seeming like they were refreshed. And I was like, I feel like that's kind of what I need to do in motherhood. When I am overwhelmed, when I'm stressed out, like I just need to get outside and take some deep breaths, even if it's just 10 minutes. I just need to get out. And basically I started calling that my smoke break. Like if my girls were, going crazy in the house, I would walk out and they would know mom's on a smoke break. She's not actually smoking. She just is out breathing and walking and trying to just bring the ability for my brain to process what is happening, bringing that science into it and just coming back to a logical thinking brain during that time.
And how hard is it though, sometimes when you get in those frustrated times to actually take a moment and take care of self? Because I know that's what we've all been taught is that you're there to take care of everybody else, but who takes care of mom, right?
Right. Oh, it's so hard. And if you are anything like me, I sometimes just want to fight back. Like, you know what I mean? Like someone's coming at you and you're like, oh, I'll show you. Like I see you're crazy and I'm going to raise it even more. And so I have a tendency to want to do that. So it's not easy to take, especially in the heat of the moment, to walk away and give it a beat. I don't know if you've heard, in your years of existence that don't go to sleep on your anger, or you got to resolve it right there. And sometimes I think we just need to take a beat. And we need to be able to step away and then we can come back to it and talk about whatever was happening in a more logical and reasonable way, not in a high emotion way. And so that's just not easy in the heat of the moment.
Now, I know that smoke break is not the main crux of the book, A Mother's Guide to Raising Herself. And when did this book when did you first start working on this? And I'm sure you probably didn't even know it was going to be a book at the time, right?
Right. No, completely. I feel like the book is very much like a midlife journey. It's so cliche sometimes when you think I turned 40 and I learned all these things, or I stopped caring about all these things.
Right.
But I really feel like I had been learning all of this stuff. And at 40, I'm 43 now, but when I was turning 40, it was just really kind of all coming together. And I was looking back and going, oh man, I had been working on a lot of things to become my better version of myself, to become my more authentic self, to be more courageous in what I'm doing. And it was really at that time that I started writing a few years ago and just putting all those thoughts down. And when I look back, that common thread was raising my kids, because a lot of these things that I was learning and growing in myself were things that I was trying to teach my girls. They were things that, that I was teaching them about being kind to themselves when they make mistakes, when they fail. And I don't like to fail. And so I realized if I'm talking to them about the better way to see failure, I got to start seeing failure in the same way. Right. And so there were so many things over and over again that I just felt like as I was raising them, I realized, it's really more about raising myself. It's really about, there's no formula to parenting. This is not a how-to parent book at all. This is just a book of going, this was the greatest catalyst of growth for me. And here's what I've learned about becoming my better self by raising these kids.
Now, why is it we don't get a handbook as becoming new parents to
Right.
really have an idea of how much of a difference that is going to make in our lives? Not only what we're going to do externally, but timing. I mean, there's just so many things.
Oh man, don't you wish they did that? I don't think any of us would actually do it if we knew what was going to happen. I can remember I was only like 2 months pregnant with my first. And I remember something happened with my 3-year-old niece at the time. I remember looking, going, oh my gosh, this is too late to turn back. Is this what like raising toddlers is going to be like? I had no idea. Like my baby dolls that I raised as a little girl, like they never fought back. They never cried. They never threw anything, you know? And so I just don't know that none of us would do it if we knew what it was really like. But at the same time, you know, I always used to get angry at people when they would say, oh, parenting is such a gift, like children are such a gift. And I was like, gifts are usually pleasant and they make, you know, like they make my life easier. And that is not what children are for me. But then when I looked back, like when I was writing this book even, and I go, gosh, well, if children are a gift, because look who I've become, like they are the reason that I have become a better version of myself. And for that reason, yes, they are a gift. But I do wish there was a formula. I just haven't found it.
What is it about midlife? It seems like a lot of things, you know, you get those light bulb moments a whole lot. I wish I would have gotten a whole lot more of them before I hit 40.
I know. What is it? I keep wondering that. I think sometimes like for me, I know I just got tired, you know, like I had been, you know, performing a certain way or striving towards certain accomplishments and goals and hoping that they were going to give me a certain, you know, feeling of worth, maybe of value. And I just remember getting to a point where I was like, I'm just tired. Like I want the world and especially the people around me, closest to me, to get to see the real me. I want to enjoy the life that I have because this is it. Like, I don't want to waste it striving for something else. I think there's just something that clicks when we are in that midlife stage that goes, we're tired of pretending, we're tired of striving. So let's figure out how to be who we are and enjoy where we are. That there is just something magical in that midlife with that.
Now, for you, the writing process, how long was the actual write and how much do you appreciate a good editor as opposed to a podcast editor, or which one's maybe easier to deal with?
Yes. Well, you know, the writing process for me with this book. So I signed the contract the beginning of 2020. And I had these beautiful visions in my mind of what it would be like to write. I thought, oh, my kids will go to school and I'll just write during the day and I'll just have time think on many things and, you know, ponder. And then the shutdown happened. Like literally I had been writing for maybe a month on the book. And so here they are. Now I'm homeschooling the kids at home and trying to write a book and trying to do my job, you know, other paid things. And it was not an easy process. And it just, but you know, one of the chapters is in the book that says you can do hard things. And because I don't like to do hard things, like hard things slow me down. I want to like get through something fast. I want to be efficient. And that pandemic and writing this book really slowed me down. But it was such a good lesson of being reminded that you can do hard things. And I loved the editing process. I've been a content editor for years as well. And there's something that I'm so thankful for that past, for writing this book, because I knew that if an editor got a hold of it, it was only going to make it better, right? Like I get excited about the collaboration that comes when you're working with a team whose end goal is to provide a really great product, really great content that's helpful. And so I welcomed it. Like I was like, make that paper bleed. Like, I don't care. Like, let's make it better. So definitely having a good editor goes a long way, especially if you're anything like me. I write like I speak. And so I could use a good editor here and there for sure.
What's it like to see the completed work in print? What was that like for you to see it the first time?
Yeah, that was pretty special. That was pretty special to hold it. And I think one of the things that I loved too about this book was my girls, you know, my girls are both 11 and 13. And so they got to hold the book and, you know, it was dedicated to them. And I loved watching them flip through the book and read a couple of stories that I tell. And they were like chuckling because they knew that story was about their sister, you know, like that kind of thing. And so that was really special to hold that in my hands and to look at the words and go, gosh, these are good. And not out of a sense of like, you know, oh, I'm just the best, but a sense of like, oh, this is so vulnerable and true and honest. And I'm so glad that I showed up in that way for the reader.
Now, for you, Sarah, how has the pandemic maybe opened your eyes to different techniques? I mean, obviously, we're doing Zoom today. We've had to learn so many different ways to do things. How has maybe the pandemic and those shortcomings we've had in that time, how has that maybe opened your eyes to other ideas as well?
Golly, I feel like the best word to describe 2020 is pivot. Like we all had to figure out how to pivot. I think it's, and that's been welcomed because I think so much of us, I like easy. It just keeps me moving. But we can get stuck into a sort of machine in how we operate. And so I think that the beauty of the pandemic showed us that you can pivot, that change is good. And there's so much good that comes from it. For instance, we never thought we would leave Atlanta. We had been in Atlanta for so long, loved Atlanta. We're huge Atlanta Braves fans. Like we were 10 minutes from the stadium. In fact, we had season tickets for the first time in 2020 and never got to go to a single game. And so, but 2020 flipped everything around and we ended up pivoting and moving to Tennessee. We moved next to my parents' farm, and it was one of those things where you're going, gosh, we have to be okay with pivoting and being okay with change, because a lot of good can come when we step out of the machine that we're kind of operating in and think about things from a new way, flip the script, see it from a different perspective and try something new. And I think that whether that's in your professional career, I think a lot of people made professional changes in 2020 or in family changes. I think that's one of the greatest things we can take away is the art of pivoting, that a lot of good can come from that. And I think 2020 for sure taught us that.
Now, was your 40, was it after 40 before you started hearing those things that mom and dad used to tell you growing up? Or were you starting to hear those things before you hit 40?
Yeah, I think they were leading up to 40 for sure. Just having kids, definitely for me, I think that happens in, anything. Even if you don't have kids, there's something that comes up in your life and you start hearing yourself and you go, oh, this is what I was told all along, or it's coming out in me what I was told all along. And now I'm wondering about that. But it for sure was in those years leading up in my 30s of just, I would hear something that I would say, or I would think back to what I would hear growing up, whether that was parents, teachers, different kinds of faith organizations or anything like that, and going, does that resonate true to who I am? Like for many years, I think all of us operate kind of on autopilot and going, well, yeah, I was told that. And we forget that we are our own person and that we can question and think and be curious about what we think or what we believe or any of those things that maybe we were told growing up, and then question it and see, does this still hold true based on my life experience and where I am and the wisdom that I've learned, that I've acquired. And so I do think that the 30s, and it was just because raising kids was so hard for me. I mean, it still is hard. But that was what was really pushing those buttons to make me think about all of those things.
One of the points I love from the book, the stop bubble wrapping your kids. And this is, my wife and I, we have one that's 16 and we bubble wrap and are so scared to let her live. What is the biggest thing from that you have learned?
Oh, it's just so hard to not bubble wrap them, right? I mean, because we don't want them to face any hardship. We don't want them to be sad. We don't want them to have heartbreak. Like, it's just scary. There's so many scary things. But it helps me when I picture my kids as, let's say, a 30-year-old. When I picture them way out, that helps me to keep the end in mind. And it helps me to kind of not bubble wrap, because I know that when I think back, like my daughter who's 13, I can easily picture myself as a 13-year-old. What was I thinking? What was I doing? What was hard? What was good? How did I live life? I would think about those things and go, she has to have the opportunity to do the same thing, because the hard things that I walked through are the things that shaped me to who I am. Those are the parts of our story. You any movie you watch, any story you read, right? The protagonist has to face something hard, and they have to figure out how to get through it to the other side. That's what makes a story worth listening or watching. And so when I think about that for my kids, it does help me. It doesn't make it any easier. We still don't like to watch them hurt. But it does help me to keep that end in mind, to go, these are the things that will shape their story and will hopefully help them become better humans through that. And so I constantly have to, bump up against my own fears. I often think about, like, if fear wants to drive the car, fear is the one trying to drive what you're thinking and your decisions being based on fear. And I don't want to make decisions based on fears, but I want to recognize that fear is valid, And so it's the same things I would tell my daughters. And I say, it's normal to be afraid by this. Well, pay attention to that fear. Why do you feel afraid? Is it, are you going to walk into school and literally like your world's going to end? Or are you just feeling a little bit nervous because you don't know your new schedule yet? Like, learning to pay attention to fear and then telling it to sit in the back seat when it needs to sit in the back seat and not drive the car. That's not easy for us parents to do, for sure.
Now, how much has social media kind of muddied the waters of parenting as well? And how hard is it sometimes you need to take a smoke break from socials as well?
No kidding. I think I'm going to take you up on that. Social media is so hard because we're looking at everyone's highlight reel. Everyone's putting their best foot forward. Everyone's, showcasing all the things they've done. And most of the time I feel like I didn't even take the pictures of the event that I went to. So I didn't even have anything to post. It didn't even cross my mind to think that way. And so we can immediately start to feel like, well, I guess a good parent would have like posted about it online, made sure everybody knew, my partner's birthday was today, like all these things. We can just start to feel like that's what makes a good parent, a good partner, a good friend. And it definitely muddies the water. And I think those are the times where we have to take a step back and go, why am I here? What am I doing on here? What am I trying to get from it? And it definitely has helped me to, be guarded about, my girls are not on social media. They don't have phones yet. And it's definitely made me be way more cautious from them because I'm 43 and I'm having a hard time handling this, then, they're not even a fully developed brain yet. Like, at least mine is fully formed and I'm having a hard time, but they haven't. So, it's helped me to be very cautious with them as well.
Sarah, if folks want to find more information about the book, the socials that you're going to take a break from time to time as well, website, everything else, where's the best place to keep up with everything?
Yes. Well, the website is sarahbragg.com, SARAHBRAGG.com. And then Instagram is Sarah W. Bragg. I guess there was already a Sarah Bragg when I launched, but Sarah W. Bragg over there. And of course, Surviving Sarah is the podcast.
Now, how did you originally get into podcasting in the first place? Where was the interest there?
Yeah, well, I started over 7 years ago.
Wow.
So that was like, I kind of feel like a grandmother in the podcasting world. But, I've always loved I'm a verbal processor, have always loved to talk, love to connect with people. And when I had kids when they were little, I was already a writer, but I just couldn't even form like words together to make sentences happen. Like I was just so tired. There was no creativity in that way. And as I was starting to like come up for air when my youngest was 4, podcasting was kind of new on the scene. And I had a couple of friends that had stepped into this whole podcasting thing. And I thought, well, that sounds fun. Like I could just talk to people and think about, what do I need help with? Let me bring on some great people that basically free therapy. Right. And that's what I started doing. I just started having conversations with people to help survive, relationships, myself, my work, all of those things, all the points of our life that sometimes we feel tension. I just wanted to bring people on to help, speak wisdom into that. And so that's kind of where the show started, was way back then, just wanting to talk to people. Right.
How has the game changed over those 7 years?
Oh, very much so. I remember the first year for sure. This was not a marketing arm, of publishers or of any kind of thing. It was just me going, I just want to talk to this person. That sounds great. I'm going to reach out to that person. And so now it has really become such an arm of getting the word out for what, people like me, what we're doing and what we're about. It's definitely, I think in 2020, I think I read this right, that 1 million new podcasts launched in 2020. That's a lot,
That's a lot.
So where there used to be easier to be seen or, there's so many more people at the table. And so that's been a wild thing to see, the growth in that. There is no shortage of things to listen to. That's for sure. So it has changed a lot in the last 7 years for sure.
How can you equate what it has meant for you on the professional side to how it has helped in the marketing as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, and even just getting published alone, starting the podcast, I hadn't even started pitching of writing a book yet. And, but giving myself this voice, weekly voice into people's lives, definitely set me up for the next step in my professional career of writing. And I do, this is just a strong, arm of marketing. I think it's needed. I think there's a lot of great books and artists that are creating work that this is a great way to get it out for what they're doing. And so I definitely think if you're looking to, create something, I think podcasts have to be on your list of, things to consider, whether you're just going to go on as a guest or you're going to launch one. I know years ago, I started another podcast called Raising Boys and Girls, and I did that for a couple of years and then they moved on to the next thing. But it was that same idea. They had this book and I was like, let's create a podcast that goes hand in hand with this book. And not many people were doing that at the time. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm seeing that more and more, that if you're putting out a book, there's usually a podcast that is going along with it. So I definitely think podcasting is such a key piece into launching something that you're doing.
That's true. Well, Sarah, I appreciate you sharing your time with us today, taking some time out of your schedule, talking about the book, talking about Mom's taking a smoke break, and that is not the literal smoke break.
That's right. That's right. We should have had some candy cigarettes together while we were sitting here.
I didn't even think of it. Well, Sarah, I again appreciate your time, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Do want to say thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes, located at 313 Falcon Road in Altus. If you ever have a question or something you'd like to know, give them a call at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've always got the latest hardware, the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma, plus don't miss out on Wacky Wednesdays. That's at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road in Altus. Now, we've seen a few world records fall at the Olympics this week, but here's the type of record you don't want to break. A 28-year-old guy in Oregon named Nathan Danzuka may have set a world record for the world's drunkest driver. He got pulled over in February for a hit and run, and when the cops told him to get out of the car, he took off, but didn't get far. He only made it a half mile down the road before crashing into a concrete barrier, and his blood alcohol level was 0.778, or almost 10 times the legal limit. Now, he was just back in court and got 13 months in jail for it. The judge also suspended his license for life. Now, obviously, Guinness doesn't hand out records for drunk driving, but the website The Smoking Gun covers a lot of these stories, and they say it's the drunkest driver they've ever seen. Their previous record of 0.72 was held by a woman who also lived in Oregon. Back in 2007, she was found unconscious in her car after plowing into a snowbank. I do want to thank you for joining us for this 120th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page, gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at gqwithcam. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Well, thanks again to our good friend, Brandon Allen. We're going to let him play us out of here. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back, got some great episodes and guests lined up next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.